This video is for Project 6.3. Once you're in SimNet and you click on all Office versions for your start file, your Excel spreadsheet, get it up and running in your window, and make sure you click on Enable Editing, and I would immediately go to File, Save As, give it a location, and change its name. My recommendation is Excel Project 6.3. It will automatically default to this depreciation worksheet, but the set of instructions will have you go directly to the first worksheet and activate this inventory worksheet. Now, the first set of instructions, we're going to name a range. Remember, we name ranges. That way we don't have to worry about entering the beginning cell, ending cell, and applying absolute cell referencing. That's for our copying concept. So you're going to select your range. You're going to drag it down. We're going to go all the way to the last row, which is 39. So you're going to drag it from A over to I down to row 39. And we're going to go up to the name box and we're going to type the word inventory. When you're done typing the word inventory, make sure you press enter. And then just to verify that it's been entered, just go to your formulas tab and in here, this command button, which is name manager, just verify that it's in there. And I'm going to close that out and I'm going to go back to my home tab. So we just named a range. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go over here to L5 and we're going to type in the product ID, which is WE006. Now we're going to create a nested function where we're going to have an index function and we're going to nest in a couple match functions. And I'll explain that to you. So what this function is going to do is going to give you an opportunity to find an intersecting point where it'll give you a row number and then it'll also give you a column number. Now the reason we want to do that, for instance, say for IRS, they're looking up a particular individual and they're going to look it up by social security number. So you could travel down within this range, and once it receives a hit on a unique identifier, which is a social security number, we have the row number. And then you're going to set it up where based on these different columns, it'll know which column in that row to return information. Say, for instance, maybe IRS is looking you up so they can retrieve a phone number or an email address. So let me go ahead and start typing this out, and then I'll explain to you how it works. So going over here, the first thing we're going to do is type equals, and then we're going to type out the word index. When you see it, you double click it, and then I'm going to now type out my named range so it knows what database to search for, and here it is, the inventory. And you can see how it's highlighting it now in blue, comma, and I'm going to start with the first match function. This one will find the row number. When I see down here in the blue, I'm going to double click, and then the first thing it wants to do is look. And then, like I said, it'll look it up based on social security number, but the lookup value is right here. So I'm just going to click on that. So that's in L5, comma. And where it's going to look it up is right here in this range, which is from A, and we're going to go all the way down. So it's going to look in this column until it finds that unique identifier. Okay, so you can see it self-populates here. And then, comma. And then I'm going to type a 0, or you can double click on here for an exact match. So double click. Now I'm going to end that parenthesis, comma, my next argument now is a match function again. So now I'm going to look for the column. So I'm going to double click on it. Now how I start filling this out, instead of clicking or giving it a lookup point, I'm going to tell it I want you to go to this column right here, quantity. So I'm going to use quotation marks so that way it knows to look for the text, quantity. So there's my quotation marks, comma. And then the next thing I want to enter is where does it look? Well, it wants to looking from here in row 3, going from A over to I. So you can see that self-populates. It's right here in the green, comma. And then I want an exact match. So I'm going to type 0. And you can see right here it comes up. It recognizes it. And end parenthesis. Now that just closed out that match function, but I need another end parenthesis. That way it will close out this entire index function. So, and I'm going to check mark it. And then it returns the value 2. So if you look at it here, it recognizes the first match function The lookup point, once it found a WE006, it knows it's row 9, and then it's going to travel over within this row, and we identify the quantity is what we want to return. So if you look, there's a 2, and a 2 has been returned. So that's how that works. And I have, we're going to look at a video during class to explain this further, and I'm going to also provide the link to the video if you would like to view it again. So let's take a look at this function. Just know in your set of instructions, when you turn over to page 2 under L, you'll see this function typed out for you. And all you have to do is just copy it over. But let me explain again. So looking up in the formula bar, it's the index function. It uses the database, the array, inventory, the name range. The first match function will look up the row. So it has a lookup point, comma, what range is it looking it up, and then does it want an exact match. And then the second one is based on our column, so we know what column, where to intersect, and we're explaining to it, well, this is the field name, which is quantity, and make sure it's in quotation marks so it recognizes the text characters. And where does it look for it? Well, it needs to run back and forth in row 3, going from column A to I. And once it finds it, make sure it's an exact match. That's what the 0 represents. Now, number 6, we're going to work on a SUMIFS function. We've used a SUMIF previous in chapter 2, but this time it's a SUMIFS, meaning now we have 2 criterias. So you could see somebody over here build a chart, and they're saying that we want to find out how many are in stock. So here's our database, and it's going to search this database, and it's going to add something up based on criteria. So we're going to use this column, and every time it sees the word black, it met the first criteria. Then it's going to go over into this column, and every time it is a size 8, then it meets the second set of criteria. So you can see these right here, they do not meet the criteria. It has to be both of them. So this one, for instance, it does meet the criteria. So then it's going to go over here and include this quantity, and it's going to add these up. So that's what it's going to do. It's going to keep searching through our database, and every time it meets the criteria, the word black and the size 8, it's going to go over here into column E, and it's going to add it up. So let's go ahead and start typing that out. Now, I know we usually type things out longhand, but I'm going to show you what it looks like if we go to a function argument dialog box. So if we go to the FX, you can either go to formulas, grab this button here, or you can go down here to the formula bar. It doesn't matter, but it's going to bring up our library. And I'm going to type SUMIFS right here, and then I'm going to select go. It searches for it, it finds it, explains down to here what type of function it is. You select OK, and it opens up your functions argument dialog box. So the first thing I'm telling the system, okay, well, what we're going to add up, if it meets the criteria, it's going to be these numbers right here. And we click and drag, and it'll self-populate. And then because we're going to copy this function down, we're going to make sure that we apply absolute cell referencing to both of these ranges, the E4 and the E39. Now let's go down to the criteria. Now the first criteria range, and it's going to be based on this information, which is black, size 8. So we're saying, let's go down and search through all these right here. Now, when you're searching through those, but first let me go ahead and apply absolute cell referencing, because I'm going to be able to copy this down. The reason why I'm doing that is because I'm going to copy it down and use it in these 2 others right here. So I need to lock those ranges in. They cannot change. Now, when it's in this range, I want it to look for the word black. So I'm going to use my quotation marks because it's text, BLA, and I'm going to use this wildcard, this asterisk. And the reason why I'm going to do that, because I'm saying to the system, and any character follows, and I can use that because there's no other word in this range that begins with a BLA. Now I'm going to go down to the second range, and I'm saying, okay, once it meets the criteria black, now it needs to go in this column here. And within this column, and let me go ahead and F4 these because I want to make sure I apply absolute cell referencing because the ranges cannot change. And I'm going down here and I'm saying, make sure that it meets the criteria of the number 8. And you can see already here, it went and summed up the quantity in stock based on these criteria, and they found there are 7 of them. So if I select OK, it returns the number 7. Now, how do we copy this down and recycle this stuff? Well, I'm just going to go ahead and convert my mouse pointer and drag this down. Of course, it copies the number 7, but I'm going to go down to the second one and double click. And the criteria is the same, it's black, but this time they want to see how many for the size 9. So all you have to do is backspace that 8 down and type a 9. And I'm going to use my check mark to accept that change. Now the last one, I'm going to double click. You can see where it color codes the blue, the red, and then we have purple. But this one wants men's. So right here, the red, I don't want the color anymore, and I'm just going to change my mouse pointer, and I'm going to use the ability to drag this range and pull it over. So now it's recognizing that it needs to go into F. But once it's in F, it's not about a black shoe anymore. I'm going to backspace this out. It's about the letter M, for men's, excuse me. So again, this E is what we're going to add up, the quantity. Now we're in F, determine if it's a men's shoe. That's the criteria. And then lastly, now you can see now instead of going over to whether it's a size 8 or 9, they want it to be the description of brown. So I'm going to go ahead and just take this and move it over. Make sure my range is correct. And then over here now, I'm going to backspace the 8 out, and I'm going to use my quotation marks, and I'm going to type a BRO, that asterisk, and in my quotations. And if I press enter, I should have 22 there. So that's how you can copy it down and adjust your formulas. I have to create a part 2 video to this project, and so I'm going to end it right now and continue on part 2.